Hi, welcome back to Christine's Home Affairs. In the last video, I showed you how to make some glasses pouches out of a tie. So that's what we've done here. And using the remainder of the tie, which will be this one today, I'm going to make a little folding wallet. So what I have here is a piece of upholstery fabric. This is one of the main sample pieces at the back of the sample swatches that you see in furniture stores. So I'm going to use that piece and the remainder of the tie to make a little folding wallet. Let's get to it. All right, what I have here is a piece of tie. That's the remainder of my previous project. I have a piece of fabric and a piece of stabilizer. Both of these are going to be cut at 60 by 20 centimeters or 8 by 24 inches. The tie wants to be a little bit shorter or a little bit longer. It really doesn't matter. So you can position this on your fabric so that it overhangs a little bit, and that's what I'd like to do, but I need to take the seam into account when I'm stitching this tie in place. Let's set the tie aside, and we're going to fuse our stabilizer to the wrong side of our upholstery fabric. You can use regular quilting cotton if you want to. Once you've stabilized your fabric, trim it to size. So that was 8 by 24 inches or 20 by 60 centimeters. Grab your tie, and I'm going to use some double-sided tape to stick this tie right down the center of the fabric. So find the center of your fabric, and for me it just happens to be this line here where the brown and the grey meet. So what I'm going to do is place my tie wrong side faced up, and with some double-sided tape I'm going to run that right along the seam line, but I'm not going to put any tape a couple of inches from the pointed end. I'm going to have a 1 centimeter or 3/8 inch seam allowance. I'm going to mark that in just at the center here, just on one side, and I'm going to place the tie evenly down here. I'll remove that tape. It works out that my tie is 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters longer than the fabric, and that's fine just like that. So let's place the cut end on this side of the fabric, and we're going to line up the center of the stitching line with the center of the fabric. This tie does have a bit of a stain on it, but I do want to reuse it because I didn't want to waste it. All right, so now that that's stuck in place, we're going to take this to the machine and we're going to sew down both long edges of the tie and secure that in place. We are going to stop though when we get to this end here. So we've got our mark made here for the seam, which will fold over later. I'm going to stop sewing my tie 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters from the edge of the fabric, and I'll mark that with a pin. So what I'll do is I'll sew all the way down here, across here, and back up across here again. I might as well stitch that as well. And I'm going to use a 4mm stitch length. When I get to within 1 inch of the edge of the fabric, I'll backstitch, turn my work, stitch across, back again, and turn again, and continue to the end. And when you get to the end, you can turn again. All right, with our tie stitched to the fabric and the stabilizer, we've got that little overhang at the end. We're going to fold the fabric in half and find the center. And you can mark that with a pin. And from the outside edge, we're going to mark 8 inches or 20 centimeters from both short ends. I'll remove those pins. All right, we have got all of our markings made, and what I've done is transferred them over to the back. Before we go on, I'm going to fold this tie back, and I'm going to use some adhesive tape just to keep that out of the way of any stitching. And I'm going with tape because this is my second go around, and I used a pin first time and I ended up getting stabbed, so that's why I'm using the tape. So let's fold this, turn this over. We've got our 8-inch mark here. We're going to fold the fabric at that 8-inch line, bring the right sides together, clip that in place for now. That's one side done, and with the other 8-inch line we're going to fold that together as well. And then we're going to bring both of those folds together. And that will fold at the center mark. Line that up evenly. And now we can clip all of those layers together. So just reposition those clips, lining everything up nice and evenly. And you can grab anything that's got a curved edge on it and mark a curve around the 2 top corners. And then we can cut that. And then what we're going to do is from this corner here, we're going to sew with a back stitch all the way up around the 2 curves, come back down, and between here and here I'm going to leave an opening for turning through. It's going to be a little bit bulky, but we'll manage. So I'll back stitch here and I'll back stitch here, leave this section open, and I'll sew this small section closed. There's a lot of bulk here where the fabric steps down. I'll back stitch a couple of times and I'll go slow around the curve. There's a bit of extra bulk here from the tie. When it comes to the straight, I'll sew a few stitches and then I'll back stitch. And I'll go forward a fair bit. We can trim the corner here, both sides, and around the curve we'll just snip into the curve there. Trim it if you need to. And find your opening here, and we can turn this the right way out. And as you turn that the right way out, we can remove that tape. We can see this pocket is on the wrong side, so we need to flip that over one more time. Poke out your corners, and then we can fold the edges under, and we can close that up and top stitch. I did need to make my opening a little bit wider here, so I've just got all those layers of fabric that I need to tuck in underneath. Once you've got that nice and neat, we can go and top stitch. I'm going to top stitch from the edge here all the way around across here and come back down here and stitch that in place as well. So I'll start just on the top section here. As I come around, I want to make sure this flap is out of the way. And I'll sew just over that fold and back stitch. Now, something I should have thought about before I finished this pouch was what I was going to use to close it up. I had planned on using these little plastic snaps, but because I'm using upholstery fabric and a tie, there's a lot of bulk in the fabric here. There are a lot of layers, and the plastic snaps don't fit through all of those layers that we have here. So we have the tie, the fabric, another layer of fabric underneath, and being so thick, the prong doesn't go through. So what I should have done is used a magnetic snap way back before we were folding this. If you want to go and put a magnetic closure on this, I'll give you the measurements in just a moment, but what I'm going to do is use this sew-in magnetic closure because that's the only option that I have now. So one of them will go here and the other one will go on the end of the tie, or I can put it on the inside of the pouch here. So I could put it just there and have that close and sit, and that flap will just sit freely. I think I might do that instead. So I'm going to position this closure on the inside of the flap, and I'll hand stitch that in place. So I've got 2 strands of thread through my needle, and then I'll double that again to give me 4 strands, and I have a knot in my thread. I'll come in just in the center of the flap, and then I can place my clasp over that, and it's pretty much like sewing on a button. So I'll do a couple of stitches in each one of those little rings. And when I've finished, I'll just loop through that twice. And cut that off. That's nice and secure. And the placement for the other one, I'll fold this closed. I'm just going to find the center there of this magnet, and I'll make a little mark in the fabric. And we'll sew that one in place as well. So there you go. Not exactly what I wanted to use, but it worked out just fine. So there we go. A cute little pouch made with the remnants of a man's tie. So if you're going to place a magnetic closure on this and you want to do that before you close up this bag, go back to the side that has the flap on it, and from the top edge here all the way around to here is 9.5 inches. So you want to make a mark 9.5 inches from the top edge of this here into the center, and for the other closure you will put that on the other top edge, and you will position this about 1.25 inches from the raw edge of the fabric. So that's before you put all the layers together. This snap will be 1.5 inches from the raw edge, and this one here will be 9.5 inches from the raw edge to there. Well, there we go. One little pouch made using the remnant of a man's tie and just a simple little magnetic closure with a simple fold over on the inside there. So it's not a difficult project, and stupidly I forgot to allow for a closure on the front, or at least a proper closure on the front. So you'll want to go and put that magnetic closure on before you actually close up the bag. But if you have one of these little sew-in type, that worked a treat anyway. I've had them for ages and I don't really like the idea of having them, especially not in the shop. So I wouldn't sell this one because I don't like the hand-stitched buttons. But this one will be perfectly usable as it is. Anyway, I hope you've liked this upcycle idea for using the remainder of a man's tie and using up some sample swatch fabric. And I shall catch you next time. Bye for now.